Hey, what is up, YouTube? Here with another episode of Life as I Know It. Alright, so this week we have Isaiah Thompson in this podcast, and he's going to kind of navigate us through the ups and downs or the pros and cons of being a first-time dad. So, Isaiah, what was your first experience seeing your little boy for the first time? Let's start with that.
Well, my first experience, I don't really know how to explain it. Like, I was terrified, but yet I was, like, excited, which was really funny just because, like I was looking at my 7-pound child, and I was like, how does this little tiny infant scare me? But on Fridays, when I was going up against guys that were 3 times my size, I was fearless. Now that I'm holding this tiny infant was literally the size of both my hands put together like this. He was this long. And it was like very scary. Like very scary, surreal moment that you can't like put in this perspective for someone else until they experience for themselves.
So there was more fear than more joy in that moment because you're like, how am I?
The joy part was like, this is my son and I get to raise him and show him everything I know. But like the fear part of him being so little and I feel like I was going to crush him.
Like holding a glass vase?
Yeah, a glass vase with 2 fingers. That's how I felt like I was holding. Even though I had 2 hands on him, I felt like I didn't have enough grit to keep him safe.
So let's take it back just a few minutes or hours, I don't know. Whenever you are going to the hospital, what's the thing going through your mind, like driving to the hospital?
Well, my wife, she didn't her water didn't break. She got induced, so it's a little bit different than like if you're in the boat. Yeah, mine was more relaxed. So I went to the hospital at 5 a.m. and like at 10 she got induced. Everything happened. They broke her water. It was like, hey, this baby's about to come out. And like 1:30 he was born. So
you had about 3 hours.
Yeah.
What were you doing in those 3 hours? Just waiting?
3 hours. My parents were there. Her parents were there, and we was just hanging out, chatting. My wife was on a lot of drugs, so she was chilling. She was chilling. Yeah. She was hanging out, and the doctor would come in every once in a while, and everyone would leave except for me, obviously, because I was staying in there the whole time. And then there was like, hey, it's about time. I was like, all right. So I sent a text to my sisters, and I sent a text to her 2 brothers, and her grandma, who she wanted me to text for her. And so I just texted those few people, and I said, hey, I was like, you guys want to start getting ready? I was like, if you don't want to start getting ready, I don't know how long it's going to take. I was like, but they said it's time. So it was just hanging out with her parents and my parents, and I mean.
What was the thing that you didn't expect when it's like the labor's happening, it's intense, like you're going through it? What's something that you're like, I didn't expect to be in this situation?
I didn't expect to see anything because I asked her to put up that little blanket. And the blanket was like maybe 6 inches off her body, which was cool for her, but I'm like 6'3", so
you got the full view.
Yeah, it's kind of full view. And like one of the things I really didn't expect is like the nurse was there, but it took the doctor like 30 minutes to get there. So,
was it kind of nerve-wracking?
Yeah,
you're like, where's the doctor?
Well, the nurse was fine. I would have been completely fine with the nurse catching the baby, but she said that she could get in a lot of trouble because she did it like a week ago because like there was no stopping it. Like she was like, you have to stop pushing. Like
we need the doctor. We don't know what's gonna happen.
Everything. She was like, you have to stop pushing. I was like, what?
She starts saying, I don't want to get fired. I got a kid already. Like
she was sitting there and she goes, I can get wrote up. And she goes, I can get in a lot of troubles. She goes, I caught a baby last week and I told him if I did it again that I'd get in trouble. And we're like, oh, okay. I was like, well, if you can hold off. If not, who cares?
Just think of like it's peeing. Like you just gotta hold it. You know, you just gotta hold it. So after the process, the baby's here, and you held the baby. What was kind of the steps after that? You know, wanting to get out of the hospital and stuff like that.
Getting out of the hospital, we had to stay for 2 days, which was awful because staying 2 days in the hospital room is absolutely terrible. But like, usually you only have to stay 1 day or 2 days. It just depends on what they say. Like if Like my son, he had a complication. His heartbeat dropped super low when he was coming out, so they had to keep him for an extra day for examination. But like in those 2 days, you basically are just getting used to your child, like getting sleep when you can, which I really didn't have to because my son slept great. So
they say there was something that somebody said that it's really important for the mom to be skin on skin with the baby. Is that the same effect with you, where you're like, hey?
Well, the baby is what I've been told. I understand this from my son being calm when he was with me when he was an infant. Is they know you from your heartbeat and the way you breathe. And they can tell if you're anxious by the way you breathe and your heart rate and all that stuff. So that's how they get to know their parents, because they're with them the most. So they get that skin to skin or just through the shirt, like hearing your heartbeat and stuff.
Okay, so the main thing is that they want to hear your heartbeat, so that you can. In those 2 days, was your wife awake a lot? Or, I mean, I know she's just went through a lot, because how do you, 2 parents, 1 kid, 2 days, were you staying up a lot?
In those 2 days, the first day, like that day that it happened, I was making sure that she was off her feet, rested, getting her stuff she needed, because she went through a lot. I didn't have to do anything. So,
Good job, honey. Good job.
Yeah, so I was changing all the diapers and all that stuff, just trying to keep her really happy and relaxed, because I didn't want anything to happen.
So this is where you kind of had to step up your game. I got to take care of everything.
Yeah. And I let her hold him. I mean, she fed him because I cannot produce milk. So she was feeding him, and I was bringing him to her, and then the nurses would come take him every once in a while, because they have to do their little checks and give him some shots every once in a while.
Is it nerve-wracking having your child and then having to hand them back off to someone else after you just got them to get shots or whatever it is?
Yeah, well, I was only there for one time of shots. I've never gone to another shot appointment. But
you're like, don't hurt my child.
Yeah, real life. But they took him. When we was in the hospital, they came in, and so you get the baby, or the mom gets the baby first and skin to skin as soon as it comes out, so I can get more comfortable with the mom, because mom has to feed it and all that stuff, if they choose to breastfeed. If not, then it doesn't really.
Yeah.
If they don't want to, they don't want to. And then I cut the umbilical cord, and they put it.
You cut the umbilical cord?
Yeah.
How was that?
That was honestly not everyone told me it was spongy. But I literally cut it, and it felt like I was cutting papers. So
yeah, you're like,
it wasn't. I was like,
that was easy.
I was like, oh, that was not.
You thought you'd have to fight it.
Yeah, that's what everyone was telling me. It's
why is this like Laffy Taffy? What is happening?
Yeah, for real. And they put them as soon as they're after they're born, they put them on the scale, and they weigh them, and then they make him stretch his legs and stuff out so they can get an accurate measurement. And they put him in this little thing where they are kind of wiping him down, because they don't get a bath for the first day.
Mm-hmm.
And it just depends. Usually they wait 24 hours or 12 hours. Just depends on what you want. We waited a whole day. But they put him in this big, they call it a warmer, and it's just they set him in this thing, and it's giant floodlights, but they're this big around.
Oh god!
On him, he's all "This is bright," and he's freaking out kinda. And they give him a shot in his foot. I don't know what it's for. They told me he needed it.
You're like, okay.
And then they all cleaned them all up, and then they asked me if I wanted to put the diaper on, or if they wanted the nurse to show me, and I was like, how about you show me how to do this one first?
So did you have a lot of experience with putting diapers on babies, or babies in general, before your experience?
Holding babies and getting them calmed down, yes. Changing the diapers, I usually handed it off to the parents, because I didn't want to do that yet. Until it came down to I think it was 2 months before I was going to have my son, I started changing diapers. So I was like, I probably should get some practice at this.
Yeah. So you went through the whole process. You had the 2 days there. Let's talk about when you get home. What are some things that, as far as sleeping, as far as adapting so that your wife can still get that extra rest.
Yeah.
What are some things that you had to go through?
Well, like the day we went home, it was kind of nerve-wracking, but also like we were like, thank God we finally made it out of the hospital.
I was a year in there.
Yeah. But like the nerve-wracking part is when you go home, there's no nurses there every time to come check.
Yeah, you're on your own.
And you're going to your own house, and you don't know how it's gonna be of him changing another place to sleep. And so it wasn't as bad as I was like, I'm never gonna sleep for another year. All my sleep that I got before, not again for another year. But he was actually pretty good. He woke up every 2 hours because he was hungry, but like that was pretty much it. I mean, he was super chill. Slept a lot during the day. Slept a lot during the night. Sometimes we had to wake him up because they like. In their first month, I think, I don't know, my wife told me in their first month, it's very strict of they have to eat on 2 hours. To,
just consistency, so that they get
their nutrients and stuff.
So your story sounds a little bit different than a lot of people that I was talking to about, like, hey, what was your experience with your kid? And they're like, it was a nightmare. Like, my kid wouldn't go to sleep. It was rolling all over. And you're saying that your son, like, you know, he slept most of the time.
Yeah,
so
he slept a lot. I got really blessed with my son. I think when he was 3 months old until now, he slept all night. Like, we put him in a crib when he was 3 months old, and he doesn't, like, when he's in his crib, he goes to sleep, wakes up in the morning, usually wakes up and then wants to eat cereal with me before I go to work. The first time I ever got to watch my son by myself, he was 4 months old, and my wife got this little weekend job thing that she wanted to start trying out. And I was like, you know what, go ahead. I work every day. I can stay home with him one day. It was 4 months old, and I was terrified the entire time. Terrified. And I was sitting there, and I was sitting at the house after we dropped her off, and he was chilling. He drank his bottle, and then he went and took a nap, and then he came out, and then he drank another bottle and fell asleep on me, and I was like, I'm not moving. I will stay in this position.
I will get dust.
But then he nuzzled in my arm, and I was like, oh God, I wonder if he can breathe. And I couldn't see that he was breathing because their breaths are so light. Mm-hmm. And then I went to go put my finger next to it, like under his nose, to see if he was breathing. And I was like, I can't feel it. So I shoved him, and he was like, what the heck, man? I woke him up, and I was like,
I'm just making sure you're not dead.
You're alive. Okay, that's fine. Well, don't stress that much where you think you kill your child when you watch them for the first time ever.
Yeah.
They'll survive.
They're more durable than what people think that they are.
Yeah, more durable than glass.
So, do you have any fears that you deal with as you want to perceive to your son of the type of dad that you are, that things you might struggle with right now that you're like, I got to fix that?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things.
Okay.
Some of them we won't get into.
Okay.
Like, my fear is always like, I always thought my dad was the best dad ever. Like, I was like, my dad's so freaking cool. He's got all this stuff.
All these toys. He's got a football.
Yeah. And I just was, like, my thing is, I was like, I want to live up to be just like, I want my son to see me like I saw my dad. Mm-hmm. So that was my thing. And my dad was talking to me the other day because I was, like, stressing out because I was like, dude, what if I'm not good enough? And he goes, dude, no matter what you do, he goes, I accidentally hurt you so many times. He said, you thought I was awesome the whole time. He said, as long as you're just sitting there providing for your family, and as long as you're
being there.
Yeah, being there.
Being in the moment.
Playing with your kids, hanging out with your kids, like, they're gonna love you no matter what. You'll go through hard times because every family does, but your kid will always love you no matter what.
So don't be so hard on yourself at the beginning because it's just like a one day at a time kind of thing, and you kind of just adapt. Yeah, that's kind of the experience you're talking about.
Because sometimes, like, he wants to just absolutely roughhouse, destroy everything in my house, and the next day he just wants to cuddle with his mom. like he's like, you know what? Yesterday was rough. I need to cuddle.
If there is one thing out of all of it, which I know it's kind of broad, that you could give someone like me or someone out there that's about to have a kid to set a goal to go into the emergency room with, this is my goal, what would you say that goal would be?
Set a goal?
Yeah.
I don't know what a goal would be, but I would say, or I say a goal for that first day to try to make your wife or significant other, or sometimes baby mama, if you're gonna be there for them, to like make them have as least stress and as least work and movement as possible after they get done giving birth, because they did push a human out of the inside of them.
So be there.
Yeah, be there and be like on top of stuff. Like make sure, like if she has to change a diaper, it's because you're in the bathroom or you're getting her food. That's when like it's like, oh, she has to change the diaper because I was gone picking up something she needed, or I was getting her food from the cafeteria, or I was
so the goal is be at the top of your game.
Yeah,
like be aware, be alert, be prepared for anything, and take care of everything.
Yeah, as much as you can, unless she's gonna be like, no, I want to do it, like let me do it, and be like, no, and then she's like, no, please let me do it, and you'd be like, okay, I guess I'll have to.
Yeah, before I get bitten, I'll let you take over before I die. But all right, is there anything that you want to get out there to anyone that's about to be a first-time dad?
Don't stress it as much as possible. They're not as fragile as you think. They're not little glass vases.
They can take some.
I mean, they can. They're not as like you can, but you can't like crush them by just holding them. Is what I.
So don't be scared.
Yeah, don't be.
Yeah, that's gonna be big for me because I'm terrified right now. Yeah. And like even holding someone else's child, it makes me nervous about it, and I'm like, oh man, how am I gonna do this? So this is the podcast, Life as I Know It. The guest, Isaiah Thompson, the amazing Isaiah Thompson. He's been my friend for a very long time. This is easy. He makes it easy. Just keeping the conversation. This is a regular for us. So thank you for coming in.
Oh, high five.
High five, dude. You thought I was going to go with the handshake. I went with a high five. So thank you for tuning in, and see you next time, guys. Peace.